Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to this Times front cover and media language with representation. This video is going to be particularly relevant for you if you are studying Eduqas A-level media studies, as it appears as a set text on the specification for exams from 2024 onwards. The masthead of the Times connotes that this newspaper is going to show us what is happening in our world today. The logo in between the two words has connotations of things like history and tradition, royalty, being British. The masthead is in this serif font, which makes it seem quite old-fashioned, traditional and full of history. Gives it an air of sophistication. The fact that one of the images is partially obscuring the masthead as well represents the newspaper as being so recognisable that audiences don't need to see the whole masthead to be able to know what paper it is. There's a question right at the top of the newspaper for the audience: how to be fit. And this, is going to engage an audience, but it also is quite relatable, because underneath it says do the bare minimum, and there's a picture of a woman sitting down. It looks like she's perhaps yawning as well. So it's quite a relatable small story at the top of that paper that many audiences will find entertaining, and perhaps a slightly softer news story. In the top right, there's a little picture of a dog and a little quote that says, "I was bitten by a pandemic puppy." And of course, this reflects the context of during the pandemic, a lot of people actually went and bought pets to help with things like exercising and motivating them to be able to go outside. Pictures of animals are quite cute. Again, quite a soft story for the newspaper, and will appeal perhaps to a lot of audiences who may be able to relate to that. The image on the front is quite big and bold and would be engaging, but there is still quite a lot of very small copy on the front, lots of text, and that reflects the fact that this newspaper is aimed at a slightly more educated audience who perhaps are higher level readers than readers of tabloid newspapers. Boris Johnson's close-up is not the most flattering photo. He's kind of scrunching up his face as though he looks a little bit ashamed or a little bit unsure of what's going to happen. And so perhaps representing him as being in quite a difficult place in terms of not knowing what to do. He is wearing a suit and tie, which we often associate with representing someone as being quite powerful, dominant or wealthy. The pull quotes on top of the image actually help to anchor the meaning of the image. So it says there was too little thought given to what was happening across the country. There were failures of leadership and judgment by different parts of number 10. So this quote by Sue Gray, who was investigating the kind of breaking of the rules by the Conservative Party, it suggests that she has made a judgment, and the inclusion of that pull quote on the front cover suggests perhaps that the newspaper is making a bit of a judgment about Boris Johnson as well, that he has failed and that the Conservative government have failed at least somewhat. That's quite unusual. The Times often like to say that they stay fairly politically neutral. So probably when we talk about political leanings, newspapers are either left-leaning, so support Labour, like the Daily Mirror, or they're more right-leaning and they support the Conservatives, like the Sun. The Times like to say they're slightly more centralist, although perhaps they're slightly more to the right of central. So they are probably a bit more pro-conservative, but they like to try and stay reasonably neutral. So it's quite unusual that this newspaper has gone to the step of representing him as having failed, and needing to be perhaps ashamed of what he's done or needing to answer for the problems caused. So this perhaps reflects the fact that so many people in the public were angry about this. The Times have had to represent him in a slightly more negative fashion in order to appeal to and engage the readers. In Sue Gray's quote, there are also the use of ellipses at the end of her sentences. And again, that suggests that there is more to come, more judgment, more verdict, and perhaps even more evidence. The mentioning of the police and the headline underneath makes it feel like this is a very serious incident. And the use of the number 4 just emphasises how many times the law was broken. This is also carried on underneath as well, where it says the detectives are examining hundreds of photos as well. So the use of facts and statistics help to persuade the audience and make this seem like a really big problem. The Times verdict makes it sound as though the Times have a really important opinion that we should all listen to. The word verdict makes it sound like they are the judge. The article actually includes quotes and opinions from a range of people from all different parties. So it really makes it sound as though all the parties are shocked and not just Labour parties, which would be more understandable. There is the phrase drinking culture when talking about the Conservative parties, and that phrase has got quite negative connotations. We often think about drinking culture as being associated with sort of lower working class backgrounds, people boozing all day and drinking beers in their gardens, whereas associating this phrase, drinking culture, with the Conservatives is making it seem like they're just drinking alcohol and not actually doing their jobs. So there are definitely some negative connotations to that phrase. Other stories on the front cover are reasonably factual and objective. So for example, at the bottom where they talk about migrants crossing the channel, they kind of just stick to the main facts about the cases. These small stories at the bottom with these kind of what we call jump lines, where they hook you into reading another page within the newspaper, they're a really great way of engaging readers and making them want to buy and read the rest of the paper. There's quite a serious and formal mode of address throughout the newspaper. So there's not in particular, there's no real colloquialisms or slang. It does make it feel like quite a serious newspaper, and that's quite reflective of the fact that it is a broadsheet paper. So that was my easy to understand guide to that Times front cover. Don't forget to check out my channel for other videos that are going to be relevant for you. And if you would like a video that I don't already have, just leave a little comment below and I'll see what I can do.